Hello everyone and welcome back to my Throne of Eldraine spoilers. My name is Jespresso and today I'm going to be going through the color black in our series of spoiler videos. If you have not seen the other two, I've also covered white and blue so far. The way that I do these videos is I talk about any of the noteworthy cards that I see in each color. We go through them, I give you a breakdown of my thoughts and opinions, and that's about it. We're on black today, which means that we have two more main colors to go, and then after that I'm doing multicolored, artifacts and lands, and with the artifacts and lands I will probably staple on all of the cards that I missed, because as I'm doing these videos, spoilers have kept coming out throughout the entire thing. So, currently all the spoilers are finished, but there are some that I've missed, and so I will recap those as we go. Sound good to you? Sounds good to me. So the first card that we are going to talk about today is a Yara, First of Locthwain. A Yara, First of Locthwain is a legendary creature, elf noble. Okay, so it's elf for triple black. Okay, and it's a 2/3. She has the ability of whenever a Yara, First of Locthwain, or another black creature enters battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Okay, so this is a very aristocrats theme, right? And I mean, it kind of goes well with her artwork too, so hey, that works out. She also has the ability that you can sacrifice another black creature and you can draw a card. This seems strong because in and of itself it is a card that is its own engine, right? Because it is an aristocrats deck, so cares about aristocrats, and it has card draw on it, right? Aristocrats wants to sacrifice their creatures and then bring them back, which is where Yara really shines. Because when you sack a creature to her ability, you draw the card, and then the card on its own, if it's like a Bloodghast, is like already coming back, right? It seems pretty good. The tricky part is Yara is triple black for her mana cost, and that is really actually kind of a bummer because I see Yara as being better in a deck like Judith. Being stuck with mono black aristocrats is a bit harder, even if Yara's effect is, in my opinion, better than Judith's effect. There just aren't as many aristocrats in just pure mono black. I feel that at some point, if we get to that level of quantity of aristocrats themed cards in black, that Yara is going to be very strong, right? I think that she can easily go toe to toe, if not outshine, a Judith deck. We'll have to see though. Maybe it makes a cut in Judith. Maybe if you have enough of mana filtering in 2 colors, it's not too hard to do triple black. Hard to say, but it's definitely a strong card. So it'll find its place somewhere. The next card that we are talking about today is Murderous Rider. Murderous Rider is 1 generic and double black for a zombie knight. 2 very relevant creature types. Zombies are like the poster child of black, and knights are just knights. They go in a lot of things, right? And it's a 2/3 with lifelink, and when it says when Murderous Rider dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library, okay? But here's the thing, it also has an adventure. The adventure is called Swift End. It's an instant, so if you don't know how adventures work, you may play the card for its adventure cost. Then at any point later, you can cast the creature from exile for its regular cost when it would be legal to do so, right? So Swift End is 1 generic double black, and it says destroy target creature or planeswalker, you lose 2 life. Okay. There's a lot to unpack here. The Swift End is such good removal. 3 mana for unconditional destroy target threat. The 2 life is irrelevant. Don't even look at the 2 life. It doesn't matter. The fact that for 3 mana you can destroy any creature or any planeswalker, that is so versatile. That means that against like any matchup, it will have a relevant target. Plus, once that's done, you still have another card. It's like they've given you a premium removal card, and then they say, well, later on you also get to play a 2/3 with lifelink if you want. And the great part about that is this is one of those cards that, hey, maybe against aggro you don't want Swift End. Instead you play Murderous Rider, and now you have a creature with lifelink, and now you gain life, and then eventually you'll draw into being able to destroy a creature or a planeswalker again. That's crazy, right? Like, that's crazy that you can get so much value out of this one card. The flexibility here is insane. I equate this to Brazen Borrower in the way that the very fact that it does 2 really good things on one card means that you are not putting 2 cards in your deck for that effect. You put 1 card in and somehow you get the same amount of a value of those 2 cards. Like, you wouldn't put Murderous Rider in your deck, you would put Swift End, but now you get Swift End plus his Great Knight. Really good card. It will be in a lot of decks. The next card that we are talking about today is Piper of the Swarm. Piper of the Swarm is a 1 generic, 1 black for a human warlock, and it's a 1/3. It says rats you control have menace. Okay. And you can pay a generic and a black to tap it, and you make a 1/1 black rat creature token. And you can pay 2 generic, 4 black to sack 3 rats and tap it to gain control of target creature. This is interesting. It goes in 1 deck and 1 deck only. It goes into the Commander Rat deck. Because in that deck, this card is pretty nuts. Like, if you're already making a ton of rat tokens anyways, if you already have like 10 rats out, you have now a 2 mana 1/3 that gives a passive ability of make all your rats better. They now have menace, which is already like in the rat deck. Hell yeah, right? Like, that's good. Then it has the ability to make you more, which always helps out if you have things like ETB triggers, like when a rat enters, do a thing. That's very good. It also has the whole gain control of a thing. So the flexibility on this card is very powerful. It will shine in the niche deck that it is in and in no other, right? The next card that we are talking about today is Rankle, Master of Pranks. So Rankle, Master of Pranks is 2 generic and double black and is a 3/3 legendary creature fairy rogue. Okay. This one, there's a lot to unpack here. So we're going to take it 1 step at a time. Here we go. Rankle, Master of Pranks is 3/3 and it's got flying and haste. And it says whenever Rankle, Master of Pranks deals combat damage to a player, choose any number. You can say that each player discards a card, each player loses 1 life and draws a card, or each player sacks a creature. This card seems like something, right? Now, here's what I would like to say. I've seen a lot of cards like this in the past, and it's tricky, right? Because for 4 mana, 3/3 in the air does get beat out by a lot. There are a lot of ways to kill that, right? There's a lot of removal that targets 3 health. There are a lot of ways to just get rid of the effect. But if it lives, and the fact that it does have haste is critical here, because it means I can attack right away on an empty board. That's a big deal. If it lives, those 3 effects seem very good, because the type of deck that wants those 3 effects is the type of deck that's like trying to make your opponent sack their creatures anyways, try to make everyone discard a card. You want more cards in your graveyard to begin with. Like, it's already helping your strategy, right? I feel as if in a Reanimator style deck or a card that wants cards in the bin, this is selective ways to do that. You can like say, okay, I place my biggest monster from my hand into the graveyard, then I will use an effect later on to resurrect that. Rankle can help you do that and also remove your opponent's biggest creature, right? It seems like the ceiling for this card is great, but I've also seen a lot of these types of mythics that just don't cut it. Right, it's kind of conditional in the fact that it has to deal combat damage. It's bigger than you think, right? Because would you play a 3 mana flying haste card in black? No. A 4 mana 3/3 with flying and haste in black? No, you wouldn't play that. It's not good enough. So it has to hit for it to be good enough, right? It will have to fit into a very specific deck, and we're gonna have to see if that deck exists, right? Next card that we are talking about today is Sir Conrad the Grim. This is 3 generic and 2 black for a legendary creature human knight, and it's a 5/4. Okay, so those are decent stats. These types of cards tend to be understated, right? They tend to be 3/3s for the effect. But it says whenever another creature dies, or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad deals 1 damage to each opponent. And it also says 1 generic and a black, each player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. Okay, so this is a lot to unpack here. I think this card is really powerful. I play a Carador deck myself. I play a deck that does the whole sacrifice reanimate type of shenanigans. This type of card seems so good in that type of deck, because the whole idea is you're sacking your board constantly to get an effect, because whenever your creatures die, something happens, right? you're already playing cards like Blood Artist in a deck like that, because now whenever a creature dies, each person takes the damage, you gain a life, and then whenever your creatures die, then they sack a creature, and right, it's this engine. Conrad here is insanely powerful in a deck like that, because not only does it work when a creature dies, but man, in a Carador deck or a deck like that, you can mill yourself for 20 cards easy, right? And now you're just like, okay, each opponent loses 15 life. And then if that doesn't happen, then you blow up the board, then each opponent loses 30 life, right? The fact that it's each is so important, because Blood Artist will only affect the one person. If this only said whenever a creature died, it would be bad. Even then, I think it could be a good card. I think that it would be fine enough. Like, we've seen cards that do that. But the fact that it says all of these other things is insane. Because also, whenever a card leaves your graveyard, well, now you can reanimate cards, and your opponents are losing life for when you reanimate. Or if someone somehow manages to exile your graveyard, well, guess what? Now you all take 20, right? Like it's one of those cards that will end the game. Because what you can do is you can have a sacrifice outlet, have your board of 20 minions, sack 20 minions, deal 20 to everyone. You got a Blood Artist out, you got Conrad out, you deal 20 to another person, kill off the biggest player at the table and all your opponents. And it doesn't even affect you. If this set deals 1 damage to each player, I would say it's still good enough. I think this is a very powerful card. I would get a copy. It's so good, and the fact that it's uncommon kind of blows my mind. This could have been a rare, and it would have been fine. The fact that it's uncommon is kind of ridiculous in my opinion, but there you go. Next card that we were talking about today is the Cauldron of Eternity. This is my most hyped card of the set, so let's just dive right in. It is 10 generic mana and double black for legendary artifact. And I know what you're saying, Jespresso, how could a 12 mana artifact be exciting? But wait, it does the legendary artifact thing, where it says this spell costs 2 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. Ooh, that's spicy. Okay, then it says whenever a creature you control dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. Okay, and then it says 2 generic and a black, pay 2 life and tap it, and return a target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. That's important. Here's what I'm going to tell you right now. This looks so much to me like a birthing pod, right? Because birthing pod is a very powerful artifact that you can get on the cheap because of Phyrexian mana, and then you tap it, you have to pay life, and it has an absurdly powerful effect that you can only do at sorcery speed. Here's the deal, and I'm gonna promise you right now, while this says 10 generic and double black, in the deck that's playing it, and playing it properly, this effectively costs 2 black mana to cast, because getting 5 creatures in your graveyard is nothing. That is so easy to do. And the fact that you can get 5 creatures in your graveyard and then pay 3 to get back the best creature in your deck. Dude, if friggin' Emrakul, the Promised End, was in standard right now, this would be making people cry. There are so many ways to get cards into your graveyard so fast, right, that the 12 mana doesn't matter. It does not matter, and it is not relevant. And even now, it feels like this card, like WotC knew it was going to be too good, because there's that clause, whenever creature you control dies, put on the bottom of its owner's library. You would think this would hold the card back, right? Because what a card like this wants to do is to keep recurring the graveyard, which is why that effect is sad. I'm not going to lie. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. In a modern deck, in a standard deck that is fine-tuned enough, you're going to resurrect 1 or 2 creatures that are so good that on turn 3 when they come out, when they should have come out on turn 7 or 8, they're going to win the game, right? They're just going to end the game right away. And if it doesn't, well, guess what? If you cast this for 2 mana, you got 5 creatures in your graveyard, man. The effect of when it dies, it goes under, doesn't matter. It doesn't, because this is a combo card. This is a way to cheat out the biggest, baddest minions in the set, in your deck, into your graveyard. Hear me now. If there is a way to get cards into your graveyard, and if an insane creature gets reprinted down the line that can win the game itself when it ETBs, it will be oppressive how good this is. Because cheating out 5 mana, 6 mana is insane. The fact that you can be so ahead of on curve on turn 3 is insane. It might be too good, is what I'm actually saying. I think Cauldron of Eternity is one of those cards that is dangerous because it might have been too good of a card. The last card that we are talking about today is Witch's Vengeance, which is 1 generic and a double black for a sorcery. Okay, and it says creatures of the creature type of your choice get -3/-3 until end of turn. That is really interesting. Let's unpack this a little bit. On a game design standpoint, there's some sneakiness going on here, right? Things like knights. I'm going to look at knights specifically. Knights and vampires right now are... Vampires are, what, tier 1 deck right now in standard? Last I heard. Knights are getting an insane amount of support. This card effectively can say 3 mana, give 1 creature -3/-3. So if your opponent plays if your opponent plays a Rankle or whatever, you can just kill their Rankle off because it's a 3/3 flying. Not bad, right? Sorcery speed. But I think what's really going on here is WotC is realizing that they're giving like tribes such strong support. So what they're also doing is saying, hey, we might be giving them too good of support. So what we'll do is we will give you a way to deal with that, right? Like in case it gets too good, here is an answer. I think that's actually really good because you need to have answers in a format. If not, then particular strategies just run rampant. Witch's Vengeance does that job very well. It's flexible in the way that you can always choose something specific. The one thing to note is that Witch's Vengeance is going to suck ass in any mirror matchup. Because if your opponent's got a problematic card, but you also have a board, well, guess what? You're all playing Murlocs, so it all dies. Yeah, I don't think that's good. In my belief, this card is going to be very good in control decks that are having problems living against specific types of tribal, like aggro mid-range decks. And it's going to be very good sideboard tech, right? Like we'll see 2 or 3 of these in sideboards if tribes ever become too bad. I think that it's definitely a very powerful card, and I'm glad that we have the option of its ability within our toolbox, especially going forward, right? So with all of that being said, that has been my review of the black spoilers so far for the set. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm quite biased. Black is my absolute favorite color, and I love Reanimator builds, and it seems like we're getting a lot of support. I'm also going to be honest in saying that there's a couple problematic cards, I feel, in black. Like, I absolutely love Cauldron of Eternity, and I don't know if it was the right decision to make a card like this. Having played so many Reanimator decks, I can attest to when a card is very good in Reanimator. This is very, very good in Reanimator. So I'm very excited, and I'm also a little hesitant to fully embrace it, if that makes sense. With all that being said, we are moving on to green in the next video. So if you're into green cards, stick around for that. If you have enjoyed the video, I thank you. And that's all I got. Bye. Jespresso.